It's a miracle that we didn't have a fire, because that happens when you get brakes that hot. At any rate, he was able to pull into this truck stop, and when he was finally able to get to a stop, the heat from the brakes started going out into the brake drums, into the wheels, into the tires, and 3 of his drive tires exploded sitting in that parking lot. I mean, you can imagine how much noise that was. A terrible, terrible situation. When we later sold that truck, and by the way, back in, this is 1983, I think, it cost me $3,000 before that truck and trailer were able to untrack. All new brakes, brake cams, brake drums, 3 new tires, quite a mess. All right, the truck has got now over 1 million miles on it. It's a rattle trap going down the road. I traded in on a new 83 model Mack with East Texas Mack, and you'll hear about the Whitfields in just a minute. But that night, after I'd traded the old truck in, I called my next door neighbor and right-hand man in our business, Bill Whitfield, and told him, well, I hate it, but I traded in the old cruise liner today. He said, you did? My old man, I want that truck. Man, let me call him right quick. Well, in just a few minutes, Bill's dad, B.D. Whitfield, called me back, and he was a trucker, but he specialized in having some of the junkiest trucks going down the road. He was constantly working on them, whether it broke down in California or New York or anywhere in between. He'd take off with his pickup and fix one side of the road. At any rate, B.D. said, I want that old cruise liner. What did they give you for it? And I said, well, they didn't give me, but I think it was $7,000. He said, would you call them first thing in the morning and tell them if they'll take what they gave you on trade, I'll buy it, be there by noon, pay them for it, and be gone. Don't wash it, don't touch it, don't do anything. First thing in the morning I called, and sure enough, yeah, we'll take it. They just want to get rid of it. And so BD bought that truck. Well, he was running his old ragged trucks coast to coast, and that particular truck was hauling glass most of the time in a dry van. Okay, the first time, and he ran several months, no real problems with the old truck. The first time his driver got dispatched to go across southern Colorado on Highway 160, he did exactly the same thing that Floyd had done on the same mountain pass, pulled into the same truck stop, smoke rolling off of all the hubs from trailer and truck. The difference was that this time all 8 drive tires exploded, which, you know, that would sound like a war occurring in front of that truck stop. I know a bunch of truck drivers got a good laugh out of that. But, you know, what's the chances? Same truck, same mountain pass, same situation, and the same thing happening at the same truck stop. Just, you know, amazing. Now, move on. The next big truck we bought was a 78 Mack, looked like the cab like the one I showed you, except this one had a 26-foot long flatbed dump. The trailer raised so we could slide off material off the back of it. And I'm going to show you somebody here, an old buddy named Randy Bird. And the baby is our Christy, who is working here, and I'm not going to tell you how old Christy is, but it would be something around 40, and that's when she was just a baby and Randy was holding her. He was an old friend of the family's, school buddy of Travanda's, and he worked for us forever. Well, Randy died about 20 years ago from lung cancer. Horrible, horrible smoker. And I tell you, I'll tell anybody, there's 2 things in life that I hate. I hate onions and I hate cigarettes. You know, I've seen too many people die of lung cancer because of that smoking habit. There's nothing good that can come out of smoking, and I'll preach at you all day long about it. Okay, Randy drove. He did all kind of stuff for us. There's another one of him, but I bought a brand new '78 Mack. Had put this 26-foot flatbed dump on it, and when that truck was only 6 weeks old, Randy had made a delivery down around Corpus Christi. He's coming back home 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning, and it gets to a little curve in the road, a community called New Baden, about probably 130 miles from here, and he had been listening to two truckers on the CB, and it was obvious they were running together, and one driver was trying to keep the other driver from going to sleep. He knew how sleepy this guy was. Okay, Randy can tell they're getting closer and closer, listening to him, and he's in a slight left-hand curve at New Baden. And he meets these two trucks. Well, the lead truck is the guy that's going to sleep, and he did go to sleep at that curve. And I got a phone call, woke me up at about 3:45 that morning. Sam, had a horrible wreck. I need you to come get me. Wrecker's on the way right now. And the way he described what happened is he told me about these two drivers, and he said, I was in the edge of that curve, and these lights are coming, and they're coming, and they're coming right at me. And at the last second, I had to bail out of there. So he starts to turn right just as the trucks hit. And they were it's almost a head-on, but they hit basically corner to corner, so close to a head-on that the impact sheared off the lug bolts off of both trucks' steering tires. So I mean, right there. Okay, the other truck, since it's coming in at a slight angle, it hit the fuel tank on the left side, knocked it off the truck. It hit the window, the mirror frame, which on a semi, a big mirror frame sticking out, it hit that mirror frame. All right. In the second that the whole thing occurred, that mirror frame hung on by one screw at the top of the door. And as the truck moved on back that was hitting Randy, that mirror frame is being stretched out and coming around the cab. All right. The fuel tank is knocked out from under our truck. The impact into the corner of our bed is direct. It knocked the bed, 26-foot bed, completely off the truck and wrecked it. Then it hit the the front drive axle tires on the driver's side and knocked the axles and tires out from under the truck. So Randy is now a cab with an engine and transmission and a frame dragging the highway, sliding until he stopped. Okay, that mirror frame I mentioned came all the way around the cab. The headache rack on that bed was now gone in that second after impact. The mirror frame wrapped around the corner of the cab, broke the rear window, and the mirror frame was stretching out and stopped right in front of Randy's face. Just another one of those situations that by the grace of God, he didn't have his head literally cut off in that accident. But Randy was one of my buddies he was the buddy that was like a cat with 9 lives. He had lots of things happen that were terrible. Okay, truck's 6 weeks old. Major damage to it. We got it fixed. Later, Randy Bird, driving the same truck, is in Dallas making a delivery, and a lady ran a red light and ran under the side of the truck, hit the new fuel tank that had replaced the one that had been removed. Didn't do a tremendous amount of damage to the truck, but it did an awful lot to the car. All right, same truck. Later the same year, this is all 1978, I took that truck. My nephew Clay wanted to go with me, and we were going out northwest of Fort Worth to carrying a forklift on the bed of the truck, and we're going to unload a semi-load of logs on a job site. Unloaded the load, picked up a check from the customer. We're heading back, and we're coming by Texas Stadium there at, what's that, 114 and 183, where the old Texas Stadium used to be. We're on 114 heading south. It's the day of the first preseason Cowboy game. Crosswalk overhead, packed with people. I'm driving in the passing lane. It's a two-lane highway. All right, see all those people? Next, there's the on-ramp from 183 right there. And is that my buzzer to shut up, Danny? Sorry, we started late, so I'll get to keep telling stories. Okay. All these people in the passing lane. There's a barrier on my left where I can't go into a median. And two ladies in a Buick were on the on-ramp from 183 onto 114. And this lady, instead of entering into the entry lane and then the next lane, she cut across and was throwing on her brakes as she pulled right in front of me. I'm going 55 probably, and I hit her so hard with the right front of that Mack that it literally pushed the body of the car off the frame and compacted it so that the tail lights were under the rear window. Bad wreck. Luckily, nobody was seriously injured. Both ladies were hurt, hitting and scratching each other, trying to get out of the car. Okay. The driver was taken by ambulance to a hospital. I had the information on her and was concerned about her, so the next day I called her. She had just been treated and released, and asked how she was doing. Well, I'm sore. I'm going to be okay though. And then she said, you know, I've always heard the saying that I feel like I was hit by a Mack truck. Well, I know how that feels. I thought the lady was being funny, so I laughed. She didn't like me laughing. Lawsuit. Okay. The truck was damaged so little, broke a little bit of fiberglass on the front fender, and the bumper was bent into the tire, and a policeman, Dallas policeman, helped me pry it off so I could go ahead and drive home. What I didn't realize is the forklift that I was carrying at the instant of impact, I had it tied down with straps, and I don't remember if I had a chain at all, but anyway, it hit the headache rack of the truck so hard that it bent the headache rack into the cab right behind me. Now, you know, thank the good Lord, I had loaded it with the forks pointing backwards, which you're supposed to always do. If they had been pointed the other way, my nephew and I would have been shish kebabbed by the forks penetrating the headache rack and the cab too easily. A lot of stuff with that truck. A couple of more instances. Same truck, an old R model, 1978 model, 26-foot bed. So you can imagine the wheelbase of the truck was real long. It had twin hydraulic cylinders that raised the bed. Well, those are mounted to the frame of the truck. So there's a lot of pressure on the frame as you're raising a load. All right, I mentioned Bill Whitfield a few minutes ago. For that particular truck, we had a shorter trailer, a little 20, I think it's a 24 or 28 foot float, flatbed trailer, and a converter dolly. Well, a converter dolly is like a wagon tongue and an axle and tires. You see them on all the double trailer setups that freight companies use, pulling double trailers. And they're wonderful until you have to back up. And then they're almost impossible to back. We laughed about that a lot, but it was unbelievably handy to use that truck and convert it from a job site delivery truck to a semi just by hooking that converter dolly and trailer up to it. Well, whenever we could, we'd go to Colorado with that. That was another semi, and Bill Whitfield would go for me, or whenever I could, I'd take it and go to Colorado, pick up a load. Well, one of these trips, Bill had gone, picked up a full load, and to keep that dump bed from rattling because it's riding on the frame, we'd always take a chain and boomer and boom down the bed to the frame so you wouldn't get any rattle. All right, Bill is on the way back from Colorado. He gets to somewhere around Quanah, Texas. He's going to just take a nap, and we didn't have a sleeper on the truck. So he's going to just lay down across the two seats. Well, in the way were the controls for that dump bed. So he just pushed them out of the way. Engine was dead, laid over, took a nap for 2 or 3 hours. He wakes up, ready to go, crank the engine, let's go. Puts it in gear and takes off. He forgot that he had engaged the controls for that dump bed. All right, it's got a heavy load on it, trailer behind it, frame and a bed are tied together with chain and boomer. What happens? The hydraulic cylinders, instead of pushing the bed up, push the frame down. So now we got a 78 model Mack truck that's already had several wrecks, and the frame is shaped like this. He was able to get it in, and we had to cut the frame, do some straightening, and then the term we used to use was fish plating. Put another plate of steel on the outside of the frame, bolt it together to stiffen it and make it usable again. Well, we did that. Another occasion, and this would have been in 1982, Randy Bird's driving a truck, same truck. We put some 2x12 boards just to be able to haul some dirt, and up the road I had a pit where I was taking a backhoe and loading dirt. In fact, we were building this office right here at the time, and Randy was hauling dirt to build a pad. Well, he got the bright idea, I bet we can put a bunch of dirt on that truck. Well, after it's all said and done, I calculated that he had something around 26 yards of dirt on that 26-foot long bed, mounted up as high as the cab of the truck. And same thing happened that Bill Whitfield had happen. He backed up to dump the dirt off, frame goes down, bed stays where it was. So another fish plate job on that same truck. Lots and lots and lots of stories behind our old trucks, and that the 78 Mack and that 77 Cruise Liner had more of them. One more on that 78 Mack. Nephew Clay is going with me again. I've got a delivery to an old friend of mine named Fred Hasse, who was a builder in east central Missouri. He gave me directions to make a delivery to his job site. Well, Fred, I'm going to be bringing this oddball semi. I can't turn around. I've got to be able to pull forward and get back out to the road to get out because I can't back up with this. Fine, no problem. He gave me directions, and so I've got that 78 Mack and the converter dolly and trailer behind me, all loaded down. I'm grossing about 70,000 pounds probably. And I followed his directions, went by Rolla, crossed the interstate, took a state road, and we're in the Ozarks, I make a sharp corner, and it was like a 10 or 15 mile an hour curve. We got a sheer face of a mountain that's been cut off on my left right there, and a drop off on my right, and there's a river over there, so there's no place to turn around. I make it around this curve, and here's an old wood bridge. I think it said a 15,000 pound load limit. You know, unbelievably lightweight bridge. So I came to a stop. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Man, what are we going to do? I looked at Clay and I said, hold on, son. Put it in low gear and started driving across that bridge. And it feels like you're running across Jello. I mean, it's rocking and swaying and popping. Just scared us both to death. And of course, looking over the side, it looked like that river was a quarter mile down there. It was probably 15 feet. And that bridge looked like it was a quarter mile long. It was probably 70 feet long. But at any rate, a harrowing experience. I get to the other side, hallelujah, everything's good. Put it in neutral, caught my breath. Okay, let's go. So I mashed the clutch, put it in low gear, and my clutch leg and foot were shaking so badly from that experience, I killed the engine 3 times before I could take off and go on down the road and make that delivery. I'd like to go and see if that same bridge is still there. Surely not, because that's been 40 years ago. One more quick one. Joe Suggs, driver, has a wreck right up 6 or 8 miles from the office here on Farm Road 1650. In the fog, 3:30 in the morning, 2 trucks going to Oklahoma. He was in the lead truck. It was another Mack flatbed dump, and he ran off the road in a left-hand curve, ran off the road, oversteered, getting back onto the pavement, set up a roll and rolled that truck. And as far as we could tell, it rolled, we think, 6 times. Old Max had unbelievably strong steel doors. After the wreck, the gap between the cab and that door was only about this much. Windshield was still intact. Joe landed, well, we have no idea how far through the air he was shot, but he landed 69 feet ahead of where the truck stopped. So there's no telling. He may have flown 100, 200 feet through the air and landed. And the other driver had EMT training. He saw the lights going crazy and the dust flying, and so he shut down his truck, ran up there to Joe's truck, which was laying on its side, engine still screaming in that old Mack with the exhaust broken off of it, so it's unbelievably loud. A fire had started, so this other driver had to get up there, reach under the truck, get to the injector pump to kill the engine, get a fire extinguisher, put out the fire. Now he's got to find Joe, and he assumed he was crushed under the truck. There is material scattered from fence to fence. He's yelling for Joe. Finally, he heard a moan way up there, and he went up there, and sure enough, there was Joe laying in the ditch on his stomach. All right, this other driver knew he was in bad shape, and he took off running to lights of a house about a quarter mile away. He ran into 2 barbed wire fences on his way running to that house, woke them up, made a phone call. That was before 911, had to call Sheriff's Department there in Gilmer. He also called our dispatcher. The dispatcher called me because I lived close to the wreck, and so I was there before the ambulance was. But poor old Joe was laying there, and he landed in a fire ant bed. And so fire ants were just tearing him up, and all I could do was just reach under him and keep raking them off underneath him and keep from crawling on his sides. He was complaining about his back his hips, his legs, and so we assumed he was broken up and just couldn't move him. Well, that's another one of those miraculous deals. They got him to the hospital, started x-raying and whatever from head to toe, and he didn't have one broken bone. Now, everything was stretched and pulled and beat up. It was 2 weeks before he could walk without a lot of difficulty, but you know, somebody was sure watching out for old Joe that day. All right, one more little funny one, and this is not a Mack. Most of our trucks have been Macks. Like I told you, brand new Macks right now. I'm a believer in Macks, but I had a KW way back, Kenworth, and I had bought it in 1982, another over-the-road truck. We put 985,000 miles on it, which most of our trucks, our Macks, I have no idea the last time we had an engine overhaul. They run and run and run and run. Cummins are awfully good engines. They run and run. Cat's, you know, awfully good. And it's not surprising to get over 1 million miles on a good semi. Okay, I'm at a playoff game for the Longview Lobos, and I'm in Dallas, and somebody was having a party before the game, and this guy invited me to walk in his motorhome. He knew I had trucks. He starts talking about what kind of engine the motorhome has, and you got any cats? And I said, yeah, well, I got a cat in a KW, and this was on a Saturday night. I bragged on that truck saying it's got 985,000 miles. In the next 2 weeks, it'll turn over 1 million miles, and it's been near flawless. Why did I say that? Before daylight, this Saturday night, before daylight, Monday morning, the driver that was driving it did something really, really stupid, and he laid that truck over and totaled it in the middle of Oklahoma someplace for a reason that God only knows why that happened. I love trucks. I think it's neat to have a business where I'm required to have trucks, and I've enjoyed it for all these years. Now, I've talked way longer than I should have. Remember to be with us next week when we talk about neat stuff on construction that has happened over the years. And with that, I want to show you one here, if it'll come up, Danny.
Yes, would you recap the beginning too? The part about the Mack and show your new truck? I think we missed a piece of that.
Oh, okay. We may have missed something at the beginning of the program here. And we started off with, have I got this now, Danny?
Yes.
We started off right here. This was now an hour and a half ago, and this is one of 2 brand new Mack trucks that we just got. I just took a test drive in this one. First semi I've ever been in with it's not really an automatic transmission, but it's an auto shift transmission. Anybody could drive it. Too much fun. That truck's got too much power. I'm going to be getting Tim Cooper to schedule me to be doing some deliveries here pretty soon if I can figure out how to operate the forklift that goes on the tail of this delivery truck. We've been customers of East Texas Mack for 42 years, and we're loyal customers of East Texas Mack. Old Bill Bankston got there in 1983 and been proud to be a friend of his for all that many years, and hopefully we've been a good customer to them. Okay, with that, there's nothing like Christmas in a log home, especially in a Satterwhite log home. Merry Christmas, folks. Thank you.